it's crazy, Chris, when you speak to somebody daily, how much you learn about yourself, like how much they see that you don't see. And then to be unemployed and dealing with so much, and then this person is like, you are actually this, yada yada yada. And you're like, oh my God, like you're just adding to the pot. I didn't even know this. And so once again, it's like I said, God has to drag me to a cliff and throw me off for me to be like, oh my God, like what is going on?
Akil,
Hello, Christopher. How you doing?
thank you so much for being with us today.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
Can you tell me the connection between your faith and your philosophy on acting?
Whoa. That's a good one. That's a good one. My philosophy on acting. Well, acting is stemmed in empathy. It's stemmed in empathy. I think even if you try to create without empathy, you won't get too far because you have to empathize with whoever you're playing to some degree. And if we go beyond acting and we're talking about filmmaking, you have to empathize with everybody around you. There's so much movement on sets that you do have to be like, oh my God, like the camera guys need some time. Like he needs some time, and I understand why he needs some time. Let me fall back. Let me give him his space. Like, let him work on his creative vision. You do have to empathize with so much when you're in this business or in any business generally, right? And when it comes to faith, faith to me is all about empathy as well. It's all about empathy. I think a lot of people think it just surrounds God and just your belief, but understanding people or wanting to relate to people or see where they're coming from or how to get them to another destination or how to impact their life with faith, like, showing them that there is a way to develop, there is a way to believe in yourself or believe in a higher power, right? That comes from empathy. You do have to understand where they're coming from, who you're dealing with, and how to, I guess, maneuver that space with them. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense.
Do you think that empathy is, I see you in pain and I have a reaction to seeing you in pain and I feel something? Or is empathy a conscious decision to say, wait, I'm going to stop and I'm going to focus on this person or this environment I'm in and intentionally put myself in someone else's shoes?
Oh, definitely the latter. Definitely the latter. I think because the first example you mentioned comes from pain, and empathy goes way beyond pain. You could see somebody happy and you're like, oh my God, like, I wonder why they're happy. I don't get why they're happy because, happiness is so subjective, right? You don't understand why that person is happy, but you take a minute, you investigate, for example, the way you're doing, ask questions, or just fall back and observe. You'll see what makes people tick, And it's like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. I understand why a chocolate bar, for example, like brings you more joy than jumping on a flight and going to Spain, for example. It's like those little treats are just your elevated spots. And that somehow brings you joy, because I think that's where empathy is a bridge. I feel like if you understand where somebody's coming from, you get to somehow live in their emotions. Do you get what I mean? Like if they're in a space of pain, I used to have these crazy moments where it's like I feel like I was feeling the pain of somebody 2 continents away. You get what I mean? Or my mind is exploring lifestyles of people from a distance. And I guess it's moving countries so much. It's like, oh my God, I can imagine what somebody's feeling like back home right now if the power is out and they can't get by, not just without their phone, but I mean, just doing the common thing, like turning on their TV, And the things we would do, like we would go outside and make up games. That's not a joy in like the third world country in my perspective. It's not, I mean, in the first world country, it's not so much a joy. It's more like people jumping on their phones and being like, oh, there's a new app. Or meeting up somewhere and they're like, oh, let's play a board game, let's interact. But it's more like indoors, Whereas abroad, it would be like, oh, let's go outside, find a can, for example, and make up a game. I just feel like empathy is this bridge for you to understand where other people are coming from and how to live in their space and make that space yours in a sense.
You keep using the word joy. Can you differentiate the word joy and the word pleasure for me in the context of like phone versus going outside and playing, and try to bridge it together with empathy?
I think joy is much more like a outwards thing. I think pleasure comes from deep within. I think pleasure is much more like an intimate feeling. I think that's why they have phrases like guilty pleasure. I think it's something that's very much embedded in you, and it's very stimulating, whereas joy is much more outwards reaction. It's more like, oh yeah, I see it, he's joyful. But to somebody else, it might be, they have no idea, like, this doesn't just bring me joy, like, this really comes from a different place, and they gain pleasure. And how would I connect that to empathy? That's a good question. I think it depends on who's looking at the situation. Like, is it me? Like, am I gaining pleasure and feeling joy from it and empathizing with where that's coming from? Or am I looking at you and seeing, oh, he's joyful. He's joyful. I wouldn't know how to answer that, Chris. I really wouldn't. That's tough.
Well, let me bridge it another way.
Yes,
so you said
please.
earlier that you're kind of drawing, you're bringing in the way that one performs on a film set with, all the people around, and how you act in that context, how the role you play as an actor on a film set, technically speaking, as well as the role you play of the character in the actual person that you're playing as. And in your experience, do you find that many actors it's a separation between the two, or do they kind of blend over each other?
I think that always comes down to a level of experience. I think it always comes down to a level of experience, because I feel like newer actors, they want to play an emotion. They want to play a character rather than be the character, if that makes sense. And I don't think so much it's intentional. I think a lot of people are so focused on doing a good job, and they think that's what the job is really about, like actually playing this character rather than empathizing with where they're coming from and who they are as a person and how other people around may actually relate to whatever this person's going through. And I feel like that's the separation right there. I feel like it comes down to experience, to be honest. I don't know if that answers your question. I hope it did.
If you were to try to quantify inside of that experience, try to kind of quantify parameters on at what point you are becoming a character too much to the point where you are now passing over the ethics or proper set etiquette, perhaps, and which point, should you be conscious of the eye line with the camera, or small talking with a PA who really wants to talk with you for a minute, as well as, embodying and empathizing with this actual character that you're playing, who might be an asshole or, whatever that is. Like, at what point?
I think it's down to professionalism. I think it's always going to be down to professionalism, because when you're coming to set, you're coming as you, and you have to remember you have an image to uphold, right? You do have an image to uphold. And so just out of sheer character, just out of sheer respect, you should be giving everybody on set that respect. You should be treating everybody with respect. It's just a natural expectation. It should be a natural given, right? But let's say, for example, your character is an asshole, right? You should make sure everybody within that space actually know, wait, I do need this space to bring this person to life. I do need this time to actually get into my character. Maybe, once again, it's down to experience. It's not something you can switch on when you hear action. It's actually something you might need the time and space to create, to embody, right? And I think that needs to be discussed on set. I think things like that needs to be respected as well by, for example, your director or the ADs on set or just PAs in general. But being nice to people or being talkative that should have its time and place. Similar to like school, for example, you shouldn't be talking in class unless it's instructed. Do you get what I mean? So I feel like that comes down to professionalism, and it comes down to understanding your role, for example, on set, and other people's roles, and also just share respect. Share respect. I don't know if quantifying is.
No, that's perfect. I think the key takeaway I received from what you just said is setting up that boundary. If I need this space to bring this character to life, so yes, absolutely, PA, I want to talk to you about your project you're working on, but I'm about to step into this role.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to kind of delve a little bit more into the director-actor relationship, and when getting into this actor's space and the director is helping either facilitate that or has a particular performance that they want, can you tell me a little bit about what you think works and what doesn't work in terms of a director trying to bring out a kind of performance?
Yes. I think you're gonna hate me for this as well, because once again, this is another question that comes down to professionalism and experience. I think the sad truth about the matter is a lot of directors are not actors, or they've never been in that acting position, so they're not quiet. They're not going to approach it in such a manner. They're not going to know how to maneuver an actor in a way that actually resonates with them. They'll more approach it like a director, like, I need you to be angry. This is what this moment requires. I need you to be angry. Like, find that anger, make it happen. You get what I mean? Even if they're being nice about it, it's like, this scene requires crying. Just cry. Do you get what I mean? Or I would appreciate if you cry, right? But it's not. And I feel like as an actor, you need to remember because we film out of sequence so often. You need to remember where you are before a director actually be explicit and tell you what they expect from you. It's more like, you have to remember, this is a moment in which you just lost your child, right? And you're sitting in this actual room that reminds you so much of all these elements that your child no longer gets to experience, right? And let's say this is 5 years in the future. This is 5 years in the future, but for some reason you've kept the room the same. So you have this hope in your heart that one day your kid will be returned, for example, right? And it's like, it's driving the actor through these moments that they need to realize, wait, this is where you are right now. This is the reason for crying. Do you get what I mean? Rather than, I need you to cry in this moment. And I feel like that relationship, if directors actually focus on building these driving forces or these reminder points, it will make actors feel much more comfortable in these moments that actually requires a director to get what they want out of an actor.
Yeah, I remember back when I was starting out, we would work on amateur film sets, but still a bunch of people on the set, and there'd be a new director, and they would almost play like the reverse therapist role, where they would like try to talk to the actor and like say, like, can you think of a time that like something awful happened? Like, put yourself there, or or even worse, throwing slurs or insulting the actor to get them really amped and pissed off for the role. But what you're talking about is like making the actor feel comfortable,
absolutely,
and guiding them and saying, this is where you are in the narrative. Here's the place.
Yes. I think as well, Chris, like a lot of people, you hear more and more nowadays, the actor has the easiest job on set, right? But as an actor, it does not feel like that. It does not feel like that, because if the movie flops, like when it hits theater, for example, nobody's thinking, oh my God, like this is the grip's fault. You get what I mean? This is the gaffer's fault. Like, you have to be within the filmmaking realm for some reason to actually feel that way. Like, oh my God, the gaffer should have did a better job at this. But for the most part, the audience is thinking, oh my God, like they should have chose a better actor. Like, you ruined this entire thing. And actors, they feel that responsibility. They do. Regardless of it not coming out, they feel it in those moments. It's like, oh my God, this is ish. This is ish. I should have done a better job. I should have been more prepared. And I think as a director, it's your job to make sure they feel comfortable, to make sure they feel as though they delivered what was needed. And it's also your job to help them get what. One thing I've realized, Chris, this is a very, America, for example, is a very director driven, the filmmaking world is very director driven. So actors very much depend on their directors. That threw me off. I'm not going to pretend like I've been many places and I've been acting, but I've listened to a lot of interviews and I've realized, like, just being in certain positions, like directing, that the director is highly dependent on, like, that's very much, what do you want from me? Did I deliver? Are you sure you got what you wanted? Are you sure? And it's like you said, some directors, for example, it's really personality based. It's really personality based. I know I said it's down to professionalism and experience, but it's still personality. Like, you have to appeal to somebody's personality. And some directors are just assholes, you know? They're gonna use slurs thinking it's gonna make a difference. They're going to be like, you have to draw, and come on, you can draw from deeper. You have to open that red door, you know? And it's like, oh my God, like, oh my God, like, do you care about where I am mentally? Like, is this all that matters to you? Like, getting this one shot. It doesn't matter if I come back from this. Like, it is. Yeah, and I think the content we deal with these days on screen is so deep because everybody's trying to relate to people on a deeper level. And if you don't have that empathy as a director to be like, oh my God, I have to think about your well-being beyond this point, then it's just careless. Like, you're just going to carelessly approach actors.
Having spent time in the film world in both England and the stateside, have you found that kind of there's a more theatrical experience that the actors in, you know, UK might be, or Europe might be more kind of like theatrically oriented, and because of that, it's less pressure on the director to like validate or to look for that direction, and there's a little bit more agency put into the actor's role on the other side of the pond to kind of bring to life whatever performance they will.
Back home in England, right? Whether you're pursuing music, for example, or you're pursuing acting, it's very much I think it very much starts off as a friend thing. Like, oh, you're good at operating a camera, I'm good at acting. Let's put on these skits, and it expands out of control. But we're more focused on our community, like. Yes, our community being moved by this. We're more focused on, like, getting people involved, right? So it's much more like, I'm going to do my work. You're going to do your work. We're going to make it happen. Whereas America, I think America has built this like, business face. And so it's very much, this is what's expected on a film set. This is very much what's expected from an actor. Like, you have to listen to your directors. You have to come to set knowing a bit about this character, or where you want to take this character, or who this character is. But very much listen to exactly what your director says and shape your character around that.
Do you find that the UK film process experience is a little bit more kind of raw and experimental from your experience, and it's a little bit more kind of planning for your career over here in the States?
I do. And that's just personal experience. I mean, that's just how I feel personally. I don't want that to be represented as the case of many. I do feel like, and once again, maybe we shouldn't be generalizing, you know? It shouldn't be a case of all Americans feel this way or all British people feel this way. I just feel like, I feel as well this is down to the scale or the magnitude in which these things are represented on either side of the ocean, if that makes sense. Like, Hollywood has been a thing since filmmaking was a thing. You get what I mean? So a lot of people, that's their aim. Like, you have this aim in America to make it there, to make it to that magnitude, to actually do that. And if that's not your aim, you still aim to make an impact on that scale, right? Am I wrong? But that's such an American dream. And America is built on this American dream, right? Whereas England is much more like, if we do make it to Hollywood, we make it to Hollywood. But that's, we don't have a Hollywood. So it kind of like drives us to be more raw, to be more like, there's a mold that we don't have to fit. We can just do as we please, but still make great content, still make such, I guess, impactful, meaningful work. So I don't think the weight is as there for the Brits as much as it is for people on this side of the ocean, for example. So I wouldn't compare the two. I would just say, sadly, it's where you are, where you're existing, and what's that weight that you're faced with, or pressure.
That's so beautiful, man. My reaction is, once you're working on commercials or TV or film here, there is, whether they explicitly say it or not, people both inside and outside of the industry have this air of, you're going to make it.
Yes, absolutely.
They kind of, have you made it? You're going to make it. Famous, some level of some arbitrary fame or money or combination. But I've been making movies since I was 11 years old, when I got like a little digital camera that had no sound recording for Christmas, you know, when I was 11, and we would just run around and we would make the most ridiculous movie. And it was just like you're talking about. The process was just about making something special with the people I was with, the friends that I was with. Yes. We'd write it, we'd shoot it, we'd edit it. It was a mess. Yes. And then right around, sometime you hit a certain age and you hit a certain caliber of project or a certain atmosphere. And then like that door unlocks for, maybe you could make it someday, or maybe there's some festival you attend, or something changes your perspective. And then that raw, explorative, sandboxy feel just dies. The kid in you dwindles. Yes. And now everything's tense. Mm-hmm. And I'm hyper focused. Is my lighting just gonna look, is it keeping up with the best part? Is my editing perfect? And then perfection comes in, and then
absolutely. And I think to some justifiable degree is, we can blame it on the industry and the country as much as we want, but at the end of the day, we still have bills to pay. You know, we still have bills to pay, and our name becomes this factor that we want to actually create a great legacy of, if that makes sense. Like we do want to leave this legacy of, my name is attached to this. Like, no matter how small of a scale this film we're working on, your name is attached to it. Your reputation is there, right? And so perfectionists become a thing. Like that element of, I want this to be perfect, becomes a thing. And it shouldn't be something that you're ashamed of, or it shouldn't be a case of, this is not fun anymore. Because fun to you could be legit making this as great as it possibly could be, you know? And I think fun needs redefinement as well, if that makes sense. I do think they say kids are the most realist actors, for example. They're the most true because there's no veil yet. They haven't experienced the shadows of life yet. You get what I mean? That true darkness of what it means to have these responsibilities. But there's beauty in having these responsibilities. I mean, you're grown now. You get to know, okay, I don't want to be doing what I was doing at 11. Like, that was fun. That was great. But it paid its price to get me to where I am right now. I want to do something bigger. I want to make actual films that either resonate with people now or change the dialogue, like completely change what I'm used to seeing. Like, you have the skills now. You have that drive to do it. You have that experience to do it. And I think that has to be respected, and that has to redefine what fun means to you, in a sense. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I really don't. But this element of, I have to make it. Oh my God, I haven't made it yet. I've been putting in like 5, 6, 7, 8 years of work. Oh my God, now it's 7 decades. I still haven't made it. I'm too old to make it. And then you think about these, you have to redefine what making it means to you. Because you've impacted so many lives along the way, but you haven't seen it because you're not first on the call sheet, for example. Do you get what I mean? Like, that is what people consider success in this world, and it's only because the world paints that as success. It's not. In reality, it's not the be all end all. You get what I mean? Have you ever seen the TV series This Is Us? I love it because This Is Us jumps between the present, past, and future, and it surrounds this family, right? And this family is like the dad and the mom. They meet under certain circumstances, for example, right? It leads to them having these kids. The mom, she has a dream of being a singer, right? But because of her kids, she fell back. And her daughter wants to be a singer now. But she's faced with all these insecurities the world pours on her, and it messes with her confidence. For example, she's very she's a heavy set young lady, right? And so that plays a factor. This is not what the world wants to see, you know? And so that kills her confidence and it makes her fall back from singing, right? But her son, who also has his own disability, he ends up selling out stadiums, right? And so it begs the question, what is success? Is success you making it at this point, or actually passing that on to the generations that are yet to come that could actually make the impact they make? Like, you actually did that. Right. To the world, your name is not in lights, but you actually did that. You created this legacy for somebody to make the impact you wanted to make. That in itself is success, but a lot of people don't see that as success. And so it's up to you. Do you see that success? And that's the question. That's really the question these days. Like, is MLK, for example, successful for what he did? Or is his parents or grandparents successful for the mind they created to do justice the way he did? Do you get what I mean, Chris?
Oh, I feel like I wish I was a better historian. I'm a history hobbyist, but I feel like so many generations, you know, the Revolutionary War in our country, you know, all the revolutions in Europe were all about creating a better world for our children, for our future. Civil War, all about creating a better country. World War II, you know, we go out, you know, the greatest generation goes, it says, you know, we're going to take what we can, we're going to build the best world for our children. And then something happened, I think, in the later half of the 20th century where it shifted from, I want to build a legacy like you're talking about and give something back, leave something behind. And it says, I want to build the best me possible. I feel like IMDb Pro might, listening to you, my reaction is like, I feel like IMDb Pro might be one of the worst things if we're living in the moment, because it's all about accumulating as many credits as possible for yourself, leaving a name for building a brand for yourself, and less of like, okay, I'm going to create something really special so that somebody else can watch it and build on that and leave something behind for the next generation.
I don't agree.
Yeah?
No, I don't. I have this friend, and she looked at me a year ago, and she called me. Actually, yeah, she called me, and she was screaming on the phone. She started screaming like, "Oh my God, you have IMDb!" And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "You have IMDb. You're actually someone. Like, you have IMDb." And it took me a while to actually get what that meant, right? Now, you have to remember, Chris, let's say I'm a store manager, right? And I've actually worked my way up from being a store clerk. I was a store clerk. I became a deli assistant, for example. I went back to being a regular store clerk. Then I became a supervisor. Then I became a manager, right? These are all credits. These are all credits I can take to my next job. I can be like, I've been a supervisor. I've been a manager. I can actually elevate this store. Right? It's an opportunity to move forward. It's an opportunity to elevate, right? It's the same with IMDb. It's an opportunity for people to actually see what you've worked on. In your mind, it could be a case of, oh, I'm just building credits, or that person just wants to build credit. But that's actually, for a lot of people, the ways in which they promote their work. Like, if you are interested in Chris Cole's acting, go and see this, for example. Go and see that, right? You are leaving your legacy along the way. Now, for you, it might be about legacy, but for somebody else, it might be just about building credits. And once again, it's down to people, you know? But I don't necessarily see it as I'm building credits. It's not. No, I do see it as people leaving their legacies and leaving the work they've put into their life, like just leaving that stamp of approval for other people to go and view. I see it that way.
Well, I'll ask the forbidden question. What's worse, a weak director and a fabulous actor, or a fabulous director with a weaker actor?
But I'm gonna go with my rebellious mind, and go with a weak director and a fabulous actor. Yes, I'm gonna go with my rebellious mind. I grew up a very rebellious kid. Like, I do what I want when I want, and it's gotten me in a lot of trouble. But what I realized is, for example, the directors, right? What you get is what you get. And so, as an actor, let's say an actor turn up and they feel like, this is what my character is, and this is what I know what this story is about. I'm gonna do what I want to do with this, right? And a director is like, but this is not what I want, right? And you can listen to them and you can be like, oh, a fabulous actor knows what to take on board and what to dismiss, right? But to still be true to their character, to still be true to the story, and to still do justice to the story, right? Because some directors, sadly, they just want the big explosions. They want these moments that they think people want to see. But actors who actually do their job knows how to be true to their character, how to be true to the story. And I think regardless, what the director gets is what they get. In the end, they might not be editing. And so the editor has that responsibility of doing their job. And so the director will end up still having credit for it despite them being a weak director. And I think weak is also something that needs to be examined, because what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean?
You talked a little bit earlier about making it,
Yes.
and sometimes people have less than defined images of what making it is.
Yes.
So we'll ask you, for you, what does making it mean to you? And then I'll ask you, like, what's the process in determining that?
Chris, I was born in Jamaica, right? And in Jamaica, I experienced a lot. I left Jamaica when I was a kid, and I moved to England. Now, when I moved to England, back in Jamaica, people used to give us these grand tales of England, like, it's fantastic, it's amazing, royalties and all type of things, and you're gonna be somebody if you go there. That didn't make me want to go there. I had no intention to go to England. Like, that's wonderful, but I don't care about those stuff. Like, I had my family, I was surrounded by way too much chaos to look beyond the chaos. And so I ended up in England, and I realized this is a different form of chaos. And I was on the floor. I remember when I moved there, I was on the floor. I was sleeping on the floor. And I remember actually not wanting a bed because the floor became so comfortable. And I remember getting a bed and eventually ending up on a sofa, and then eventually ending up on a bed, and it just kept going back and forth. And I realized eventually my goal was not where I lay my head so much. It was more about catering to those that I want to see elevate. Does that make sense? Because I was always looking at whoever my family member was that was surrounded me, and I was like, if I get a bed, I will let you sleep on the bed. I will sleep on the floor because I just want to know that you're in a better place. I want to know that you're, and having that ability to give them that was what drove me. And I feel like that will forever be success for me. Like being in a position to give somebody more will be making it for me. So if I can, for example, make it to the top of the food chain, for example, own a like something representative of Netflix and actually give people jobs, like put food on the table for people, actually create this generational wealth for my family, that's making it to me. Do you get what I mean? Even if my name is not getting the credit it deserves, I know that I open the doors for people. Like, you don't need to know I own Netflix. I just need to know Netflix is creating food for my family. Does that make sense? That's what making it is for me. I need to make sure that I'm in a position where I'm opening as much doors as I can for those people. I'm making sure that not just opening doors, but I'm actually making sure that they get by and they exceed and they excel. That to me is making it. So this film industry has always been like a stepping stone towards that. It's never been a final destination for me. It's not something I look at as a final destination. It's genuinely more of a this is where God is driving you in order to open the doors you need to open for those around you and create the space for those to be better. So I guess that's my answer.
Beautiful. That's a mission.
It's a mission. It's a real mission.
It's almost impossible for somebody to make it, to achieve their goal, if they don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think a lot of people overlook human nature. Like, once you get what you want, suddenly your parameters for success, it broadens. You know, and some people forget that this was what I wanted. Like, at one point in my life, I actually wanted this job. Like, it was all I strive for. Now I'm so hungry for more. And so I think if you have that mindset, you'll never truly make it. You'll never truly make it because you keep moving that finish line. And that in itself is a brilliant thing. I don't think anybody should reach, like, should actually attain a job that they want to and just stop. That would be weird. That would be so unfulfilling because you're going to be repeating the same thing for the next 30 years. Like, that's very weird. But I also, I'm from a world where, for example, someone wanted to be a bus driver. And that brings them, like you mentioned before, the bridge between pleasure, joy, and empathy. Now we can actually link it. That brings them deep pleasure. Like, they used to see their dad as a bus driver, and that was what they aspired to be. Now they're a bus driver, or even driving a bus before acquiring a license. Like, that brought them that pleasure. Like, that was pleasure to them. And now they that's their career path. Now they're feeling joy. Every day is joy to them. Like, picking up these passengers, learning these new stories, like experiencing what their dad experienced, that's joy. And then me, I could come in and be like, oh my God, like, all you wanted to be was a bus driver? But if you actually sit and listen to their legacy and actually see the joy, now there's empathy. Now it's like, oh my God, I'm so glad for you. Like, this is incredible. This is incredible. Like, imagine being in your position where I actually accomplish what I want, and every day is joyful. Every day is joyful. Like, that to me is brilliant.
Well, for many years for me, I had a goal of starting a YouTube channel. Well, I had an old YouTube channel from when I was a kid, which I still use for this. But, you know, as soon as I post one video on there, I achieved that goal.
Yes.
And I did. I posted a short film like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was like, it felt rotten. I was like, oh, well, what's the next goal? I felt, but for this podcast, talking to people about core values and having people sitting in the chair you are, and some are just crying because they're so overwhelmed with, like, just kind of the experience of talking about this, and it just brings me such delight to do this, that, you know, 62 episodes later, this fuels me. I'm driving my bus.
Yes, congrats, man.
And it delights me, and
congrats.
I love it. So
that's amazing. That's truly amazing, bro.
But I think that something that's like what you're talking about here, this current experience of pleasure, of delight, of joy. So my fifth core value is inspire peace. So when I step onto a film set as an AD or whatever, I ask myself, am I bringing peace to this production? And if at the end of the day I can look at myself in the mirror and say, yes, I brought peace to that production, I've made it.
Which you do. But yeah.
Thank you, buddy.
No, it's like an innate talent for you. Yeah. Like actually bringing peace. Yeah. So you should be very proud. And that's hard. That's hard. Especially in this business that's so chaotic. That is hard. But yeah, you do that with ease. So yeah, honestly.
So you just sort of absorbed my upcoming question, which was to create a correlation between your family and your community with acting, which you did. You said you want to provide. It sounds to me. Is there any other ways that you wish to impact your community and wherever you are, whether it's Los Angeles, Philly, or UK, by acting?
Firstly, I should explain that I've always been one of those people that selected my family and accepted my community, if that makes sense. So community to me actually goes beyond like acting. Like when I mentioned originally that one of my values is my family and my community is my responsibility, I was actually talking about, for example, sadly, I've been put in a position growing up where I had to choose my family members. So you might hear me say, this is my brother, this is my sister, but they're not actually my brothers and sisters, but I'll take care of them as though they are, you know? So when it comes to community, it expands so far beyond acting. It expands, for example, for my Jamaicans, because we were in those places where it's like we tried so hard to evolve out the ghetto for whatever reasons, but even seeing beyond that became hard. And I feel like I have a responsibility 3 countries later to show people that, oh, you can actually leave this place. Like you can actually expand beyond this. I was in a position, Chris, where to be honest, I never had papers at one point. You know, I never thought, for example, that I could have a job that was legal and you can move around with such freedom, you know? And that's something where, for example, my Jamaicans, many are burdened with. You know, it's so hard for us to actually live the life that we want to live and create better. That's why whenever people talk about immigrants, it tears my soul. Immigrants, for example, are part of my community, will forever be a part of my community. I don't care what documents I have that makes me legal, like they will forever. So even with immigrants, I feel like I have a responsibility to, for example, create jobs for those that, I know this should not be said, but create jobs for those that aren't,
who don't have the papers
to make it. That's just, it's a responsibility I have. You know, and like you said, whether it's in LA, whether it's in Philly, wherever I go in this life, I want that to forever be my responsibility. I can't afford to forget what it was like when you had to work 6 jobs under the table just to make it, just to pay your rent. Like, you can't forget things like that. And so I do feel like I have that responsibility throughout life to celebrate my friends' wins, for example. Like, I know what it's like to get your first job. Like, I was applying for my first job for 4 years before I got it. And you had to do a lot just to put food on the table because you don't have a job. And I have a responsibility to make sure that, for example, anybody who secures their first job, that's a part of my circle, that's celebrated. You get what I mean, Chris? Anybody who, for example, they want to be in film, right? Becoming a PA, like jumping on their first set as a PA, that's celebrated. It's one step closer to you being in a film. Like, I do feel like I have that responsibility to continue to enforce that positivity in my community and enforce that that drive for more. So that's what I meant by
As you're discussing this concept of striving for more
yes.
and getting out of, potentially dangerous or very difficult situations or
Yes.
environments, and moving into a better place and bringing those in your community or chosen family along with you.
Yes.
Can you tell me what redefinement means for you?
Oh yeah. Okay, redefinement for me started my grandma was like my heart, my soul, my eye, my everything. My grandma was my everything, Chris, right? But she had all girls. Like she had all girls. So my household was filled with ladies. Like it was just I was the first guy to come from my grandma. And so she treated me like a treasure. Like she treasured me cuz she was just like, "Oh my god, like finally a boy." But I was surrounded by ladies. And so growing up I was very effeminate, right? And a lot of people had a problem with that. A lot of people. And I was growing up in Jamaica. Anybody that knows that that was forbidden. Like it was just a lot of people saw that as a threat to God knows what. And so a lot became a factor. Do you get what I mean? Like there was a lot of death threats, a lot of bullying, a lot. And so it got to a point where you heard masculinity so much, you heard be a man so much that I had to redefine what it meant in my mind in order to get by. You get what I mean? Like it becomes a point where I do have to think, well, what does this mean to me? And so luckily I was an observer from very early on. So I would observe men and I would see so many things that I didn't want to be. And that brought me peace because it's like, okay, if this is what it means to be a man, I definitely don't want to be that. But what do I actually want from your traits that I can define as masculinity? And so that's where redefinement came in for me. And then it stretched beyond that. Like, for example, you asked earlier on, like being on set, right? What's the difference between being on set and talking to a PA or needing time to enter your role or just setting those boundaries? As a man, boundaries are super important. And then I had to learn that's not just a man thing. That's just human in general. Do you get what I mean? Because then people will be like, there's a difference between what the boundaries women have to set and there's a difference between the boundaries men have to set. And then I realized that's also a thing that you have to enforce in your mind. Do I truly believe that? Or do I just think it's a human thing, period? Because as human, we need boundaries. We do. And so that needed redefinement too. Like, what is boundaries to me? So even when I jump on sets, like, I don't know, like the other day when you were on set, I don't know if you were in the room for the conversation, but I was making it very clear to people, this is, comfortability is what matters to me on set. Like, we have to make sure it's very outspoken. I don't need for you to be arguing with whoever makes you feel uncomfortable. I need for you to go to your AD and tell them, et cetera, et cetera. And even one or two people beforehand hit me up and told me about their boundaries and, on sets and things they don't want to happen. And I check in with people in regards to their mental health and so forth, because I want that to be, I want like post sets like actions to be redefined as well. I feel like a lot of people, when they're done with a set, they're done. And I feel like a lot of people going into sets, they're so used to these norms, like look out for your call sheet, look out for this, look out for that. But it's like, yo, I know I'm not directing the set, but I'm also an actor. So do you want help with, like, this would be great for your character. You don't have to listen to me, but this would be great. Do you need help with like makeup? Do you need help with wardrobe? Like things like that, Chris. Like, it's about redefining even your role, your approach, like everything. I told a lot of people, like, my recent job, that my main job right now, is all black men, and that wasn't intentional. But being surrounded by all black men made me see black men in a different light. And that's crazy at my age. Like, I thought I knew what that meant, but, but it just, and so even that had to get redefined lately. It's like, these things, like, we're not all the same, we approach things differently, but just that weight of being a black man in this society, like, that needed redefining too. And so it's just this constant case of redefining what it means to be me, or what it means to be you, for example, and finding that bridge of empathy to relate to you, and maybe how my actions might weigh heavily on your life, in a sense, and making sure that you understand, for example, how certain words, not just the N word, but any word, might affect me. Like, yeah.
Wow. That's so, what feels to me is empowering, and you can correct me where I'm wrong here, Akil, but it feels to me that so many people want to, for good reasons, change the world. They want to control their own feelings. They want to control other people's feelings. They want to control the narrative. They want to control the government. They want to control policy.
Yes.
So much control. People want to manifest success. They want to make things happen, change, control. And it results in a lot of suffering because you can't control how people think. You can't control what people say. You can't, as much as you try to. And that's where this tension comes from, is where people desire something greatly for good or bad reasons, and they try to control it, and they can't. What you're saying is reframe the perspective in your own mind, do what you can, redefine what this means to you, and redefine how you're engaging in the world yourself.
Absolutely.
And it gives you so much agency.
Yes. Everything starts with you. Everything starts with you. It's, for example, I thought this interview, surprisingly, was going to be a lot about my mom. I really thought it was, because I was writing my values and I realized how much she's affected all of them. And when it comes to my mom, I realized very early on that she creates this atmosphere for me to realize what it means to truly be human, what it truly means to be in charge of your own path, to truly be in charge of your actions, and how your actions are going to affect so many other people. And so when it comes to this, for example, I feel as though everything starts with you. Everything starts with you. If you are not open to not even change the narrative, but change the way you feel in regards to people, or a certain type of people, or just those you're surrounded by, or what you've been told about others, because that's very strong. Like, you in this society, we get told so much about a certain type of people. For example, that's how cults are created. Cults are very much about changing the narrative, or are sticking to this one narrative, right? And enforcing that in other people's minds. And I feel like you, as a leader, like, you have a responsibility to sit on this couch, for example, and make people realize, like, oh, this is why you think the way you do. You're not judged. But you should be open to actually realizing this is how you approach things. And it really starts with you. So, for example, Chris, you're a strong character, you're right? You're a strong person, very strong-minded, right? You are talking about, like, enforcing peace when you go on set, right? You have to realize, once somebody asks you, like, oh my God, like, why are you so calm? Like, why do you have this demeanor? Like, why do you bring such peace to people? You have a responsibility to be like, well, that's my duty. Like, I know I'm an AD, I'm a DP, I'm directing this, but my number one job is to make sure everybody feels very peaceful when they're on set. Like, they actually realize it's a safe space. Like, you feel comfortable. That's your duty. Like, that's your number one duty. And so it's going to make your PA say, oh, damn, like, I have to make sure, like, my actors, like, I have a responsibility when I'm checking on these actors to make sure that they feel comfortable, they feel good, like, they feel attended to, like, they feel very at peace to do their job. Same with my director. Like, do you need anything? Should I go get anything? Oh, you need something from your car? Like, wait, stay there. Focus on what you're doing. Like, I'll go get it. That's my job. Like, you have this. It starts with you, Chris. It really starts with us. So yeah, I do feel I have that agency to make people to actually redefine what pieces, for example, and kind of make sure people know it's okay for you to act this way, because a lot of people do feel like they need to have this wall up.
So we were talking a little earlier about being a leader,
Yes.
and yeah, maybe there is somebody who has a lower scale of maturity, perhaps, like you mentioned,
Yes.
and you have the capacity to reframe, to redefine,
Yes.
and in that sense, people are able to kind of you can almost create your own cult because people are observing you and they're following you on the film
Absolutely.
set that you, as the writer director, are operating.
Absolutely.
Tell me a bit about work ethic and how you inspire people to follow that mantra yourself.
This goes back to my mom. See why I thought everything would be about my mom. Chris, my mom, I remember I would wake up. I would wake up, like, let's say 7 a.m., right? My mom wouldn't be there. Like, she would be gone to work, right? I would be going to bed at 10 p.m. She wouldn't be there. She'll still be at work, right? But I would know she came home because I would wake up to breakfast. And I'll be like, when do you actually sleep? Like, when do you sleep? Right? And I remember that's how I developed insomnia, because I would stay up trying to see what time she would come home, right? Just to say I love you, or just to actually see if she was crazy drained. But that's how work ethic became a thing to me. Like, you have to work for what you want. And I would be elevated out of certain situation, or not even elevated, but I will end up like leaving certain bad situations, or just elevating in life, for example, and it will be all down to her work ethic. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I want to work that hard in the future. I want to work so hard that my kids, like, if I tell them we're going to leave a certain situation, like, don't worry about this, I can actually take them out of that situation. And so it molded my work ethic. And it took me a long time to redefine what work meant to me. It took a very long time, because I realized she was working hard, so I would work smart. But I was too busy admiring her work ethic that I was so stuck on working hard. And so when I come across people nowadays, like, a lot of people will be like, Akil, like, nobody works as hard as you. Like, you work really hard and you barely sleep. And I had to, like, I always depend on God, because I say God has to drag me to a cliff and throw me over the cliff for me to realize what I'm doing wrong with my life. I was so hell-bent on working so hard that I didn't realize I was working in vain at some point. Like, there was no elevation. I just was working to work. I didn't know what it was like to not work. And then I stopped, and I was like, you actually have to work with a goal in mind. You actually have to work with a goal in mind. And that changed what leadership meant to me as well. That completely redefined what leader meant to me, because my entire life, I always felt as though I had to lead myself, because so many people were showing me things that I didn't want to be. And I was like, you have to figure out, like, what works for you and who you are. And having a strong work ethic became a thing to me that defined who I was. And to come to a point where I had to be like, oh, this is not you. Like, you're not going to get far like this. You actually have to change your stance on this. Going to sets, for example, right? And or working back-to-back sets, just to show, okay, this is what I'm built for. This is who I am as a person. I can lead this pack. We're actually going to get somewhere together. That also became in vain. Like, it didn't seem as though I was doing it for the sake of progression. I was doing it because this is what was expected. This is what's needed. And so that's why one of my values, I changed it to meaningful work ethic, because you have to work with meaning. You know, in order for you to be a leader, you have to work with meaning. You have to tell your people, like, we're doing this so we actually meet this quarter, for example, or status for this quarter, right? Or quantity or whatever for this quarter, right? Whereas a lot of people are just like, oh, we're doing this because we have to. And once you redefine that, I think that's what makes you a true leader. And it brings back to the cult ethic as well. A lot of people are like, we have to reach out to this many people. We have to secure this many people. We have to bring this many people in, right? That's their the way of quantifying their success. We have to bring this many people in, right? A leader knows when the work is meaningful compared to when the work is just like, I'm doing this for the sake of building, like just increasing my numbers.
It's so funny that we use the term work ethic. I love your work ethic. What people really seem to say most of the time when they say that is, I love how busy you are. I love how you're always working.
Yeah.
But the word ethic, like value, meaning.
Thank you.
If they skip over that, it's like, I like your work-life balance, sir.
Yes.
I like that you are working smarter and you're shooting fewer shots that are higher quality.
Perfectly said. Perfectly said, Chris. Perfectly said. Perfectly said. I couldn't put it better. I couldn't put it better. I think that's what people need to focus on a lot more in this life, your work-life balance. Because when you work and work and work, Chris, okay, the first time I got fired, I found another job in like 2 days, right? The second time I got fired, a month passed and I didn't have a job. And Chris, I spiraled out of control because I didn't understand what was going on, because normally I have like 3 jobs. And the fact that I made it down to 1 job and then I got fired from that job, and I was like, what is going on? It's cool, I'm gonna find a job in a week. Like, it's really that simple. And a month came and I was like, I don't understand what's going on. And Chris, in that month, I realized how much my house was in shambles. Like, I realized my character. Like, I realized how little I knew about myself, because all I knew was to go to work. That was all I knew. I would take all the doubles I can. I would do everything I had to do to work. And then I realized within a month and a week, Chris, how much I was running from as a person, how much I was not dealing with. And that shook me to the core. It shook me to the core. I have this one person in my life I speak to like pretty much every day. We've known each other since we were kids. We're family. And it's crazy, Chris, when you speak to somebody daily, how much you learn about yourself, like how much they see that you don't see. And then to be unemployed and dealing with so much, and then this person is like, you are actually this, yada, yada, yada. And you're like, oh my God, like you're just adding to the pot. I didn't even know this. And so once again, it's like I said, God has to drag me to a cliff and throw me off for me to be like, oh my God, like what is going on? And I realized how I was towards my family as well, like how much I was pouring into family, how much I was pouring into community. And I've never been the type to expect anything back, so I was not expecting anything back. Before we actually end, Chris, when you grow up the way I grew up, like you're so used to negativity. And positivity is just something you enforce on yourself. Like you got to get up, you got to tell yourself today's going to be a good day. Like you got to make it a good day. But you don't depend on other people to make it a good day. So compliments wasn't a thing to me. Like it was something that like, washes off my shoulder. Like it wasn't anything. It was just like, oh, you like my work ethic? Cool. And we move. Chris, when I became unemployed and I was spiraling out of control and everything was happening, I realized how much I was pouring into others and I wasn't getting anything back. And how all along it didn't matter to me until I was left with just acting. Like I was looking at what I was doing acting wise, and I was like, a lot of people compliment my acting. Oh, this is interesting. Like it, whenever people are like, "You're a great actor," I'm like, right, because I only care about what's going on up here and getting to work. Like I was always jumping off the stage and running to work.
Yep.
Like your compliments was just cool. It was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But now, because it's the only thing I have right now to focus on, and acting opens your mind up to who you are as a person. There was a point I was crying. I was crying and I couldn't understand why I was crying. I was like, there's nothing for me to be crying about. And I realized it's because you have so much there's so much dealt with trauma from characters you played that you yourself didn't truly unravel. Like it didn't truly, you didn't truly deal with that as you. Because when you empathize with somebody, Chris, you feel a lot of what they feel. You feel a lot of their pain. You feel a lot of their joys, their pleasure, for example. But because it's not yours, you technically don't truly feel as though you have to deal with it. But it still lays dormant somewhere in you until it's ready to. But in regards to support, I was saying, when I realized how much support I had, I was thrown off. I was so thrown off because I was like, oh my God, people actually support what I'm doing. I never realized that because I was always in a position where I had to support me. And I was like, I don't care who supports me. I'm here for me. But now that I was realizing where you're actually surrounded by support, it drove me over the edge because I'm like, I'm not used to this. I don't know what to do with all this support. I have no idea what to do with all this support. And I think you have to take that into consideration when it comes to people as well, because people have no idea sometimes how to deal with positive things.
Yes.
And so we yearn for the bad. We yearn for understanding, or we crave the darkness we know. And so we're in a position as leaders to be like, okay, I understand. I fully understand this. But it's okay. It's okay for you to know you're okay in the light.
I find it super interesting when I know some people who are constantly in a new relationship. They're in a relationship for 2 years, things go south, and then they break up. And they instantly jump into another relationship.
Yes.
Their core identity is wrapped up in being in a relationship.
Yes.
They can't fathom being alone.
Yes.
It's only when they are really forced to be single for 6 months, 9 months, that they learn all of the growth opportunities that they had while being in the relationship. Sometimes it's, hey, you were really failing in being in a relationship this way, and it took you a long time of being single to learn that.
Yes.
Other times it's, you have been looking for the wrong person. You've been finding the darkness.
Yes.
And you need to understand your own value and develop skills to set up boundaries.
Absolutely.
But it's only when God takes that away from you forcefully. He throws you off the cliff and he says, listen, no relationship for 6 months.
Yes.
That you must reflect and take a month and a half off of work. And you're so used to working and being productive. Oh my gosh. And like dealing with the feelings that you must have had of feeling unemployed for a whole month.
Yeah.
Right.
Crazy.
It's only there that the growth develops.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Going back to faith, I think whenever I say faith as well, similar to like community and family, a lot of people think I'm just relating to God, especially since I speak about God so much. But faith in yourself is crazy. Like understanding faith starts with you, and finding out what you need to be faithful in is underestimated. Like faith really starts with you. And so if, for example, you're in a relationship and you're out of a relationship, you're jumping in another relationship, you're coming out, and then now you're finally single, and it's like, I don't know what to do with myself. Finding that faith in yourself to know that I am going to be all right. I am going to figure it out. I am going to be okay alone. I am going to actually buy myself flowers today. I'm actually going to buy my favorite candy. I am going to actually go to a museum on my own. I'm going to treat myself to a date. Like I am. Like you have a responsibility to yourself to be faithful in your growth, to be faithful in getting to where you need to get to, and actually knowing where you yourself is going wrong in these relationships because you're the common factor. Regardless, I don't like when people are like,
Are you actually the common factor in all of your relationships with other people? You would have thought.
you would thought. Yeah. A lot of people are like, I keep failing at relationships. I keep failing because this person is that person. Oh, and with this person is like, and then you have these friends that are like, yeah, it's definitely their fault. Do you get what I mean, Chris? And it's like, when are we gonna stop and be like, okay, well, where did I go wrong? Which is why I think a lot of my family, friends, whatever, I probably upset them a lot because the moment somebody comes to me and they're like, we broke up because blah blah blah, I'm always like, well, what did you do? Like, what did you do? I did nothing. That's a lie. That is a lie.
Yeah.
It's a lie because I grew up. I will say as well, I grew up around a lot. Sadly, a lot of domestic violence, and I realized to some degree you do need to take ownership of sticking around. You do need to take ownership of allowing certain things. That sounds weird. I don't know how to phrase it. But for example, somebody beating you down constantly and you thinking, I can't escape this, or this is who I am, or they're right about me. You do need to take ownership of that because that's the sad truth. You're giving this person the power to beat you down because you genuinely believe what they're saying is right.
Right.
But when are you going to stop and say, I am actually more than this? Like, they're actually wrong about me. Redefining beauty as well was something I had to do throughout life. Like, there's some point where I came across a lot of people who didn't believe they're the definition of beautiful.
Right.
And so you do get to that point where it's like somebody tells you a million times that you're not beautiful and you do believe it. And it's like, when are you going to change that? Because it's time for it to change.
If one is to be willing to redefine the perspective or definitions or their interactivity with the world, such as the way that we are discussing, one must be willing to put themselves in a place where everything they think they know about the world might not be what they think it is.
Yeah, and you're saying that's why a lot of men cry? Because
I try not to make any generalization, but
Yes.
I believe that crying comes from a place of a lack of real crying,
yes,
not fake crying, but it comes from a place of inability to comprehend a feeling that you're experiencing.
yes,
And men, if they are willing to put themselves into a place where they really they are accepting, I can't comprehend this feeling,
yes,
and I'm not going to cope or I'm not going to cover it with something else. I'm just going to sit in that feeling.
yes.
That's when the true weeping happens, and that's when they allow themselves to go into an infant, toddler-like state where
Yes.
they actually can relearn,
Yes.
can redefine things
Absolutely.
when they're in that emotional state.
I think the crazy thing about this is, once again, it's so subjective. Like, it's such a this might apply to you but might not apply to me type situation that yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I always think about my connection with crying and my history. My mom always told me as a kid I would be the crybaby in the family. I would always be the crier. I would always be the crier. But I remember the first time crying became a thing to me, and it was I would be in school in Jamaica. I would be in school, and like I said, people always had a lot to say about me. And I remember I wouldn't be crying in front of them. I would go home and I would cry. I would go home and I would cry. And I remember it came to this point where I'm like, wait, you're doing this all the time. Like, you're just coming home and you're crying. Why don't you cry and plan? And I'll be like, okay. And for a long time, like for a short time, I should say a very short time, that became a thing. Why don't you go home, cry, and plan? And then I started to put it in motion. Like all the same people would say the same thing about me. So now I would go home and cry, and I would think, okay, well, Chris looks like this. Like, this is what I'm going to say the next time he says this. Like, da. And that became a thing. Like, I would go home, cry, and plan. And then it became a thing where, because I'm not crying in front of the person, I would seem strong because I would now go, I would wait for you to say something, and now I'm ready for you.
Wow.
And that's the foundation crying had for me. And so growing up, I would do that. I moved to England. Whenever I would cry, I would plan, right? And then eventually I just stopped crying. Like crying didn't become a thing because planning became much more of a thing. Like it would be like, now I don't need to cry because I know I'm going to come back at you. I'm going to plan. And then it became a thing because I stopped crying. I forgot what that felt like. If I'm being honest, I forgot what that felt like. And then I was put in these positions where you would start crying again. And it's like you said, maybe it's because you genuinely you're in these new situations where you're overwhelmed by what's going on. You don't actually know how to comprehend what's going on or how to maneuver it. Right? And so crying becomes so I would agree. I think usually when you cry for real, it's because you're in these situations where you can't really truly comprehend what is going on. And tears helps bridge the gap, I guess, for understanding or for just a release of emotions. Yeah, I would agree. I would. Yeah.
Akil, what are your plans? What's next for you?
What is next for me? Well, I moved to LA, in like a week or so. LA was never, I won't lie to you. I know being a filmmaker, LA is like the goal for a lot of people, but it was not the goal so much for me, if I was being honest. I always thought it was a possibility. So I intend, I intend to, I guess, redefine what filmmaking means for me. Yeah, I guess that's the main goal. I feel like we know what we're seeing. And I've always been the type of person that says no two eyes in this world have ever seen what I want to accomplish. And I think in order to make that true, or for it to actually be the case, I need to redefine these pursuits of mine. So I'm gonna start putting in real work as a filmmaker and hopefully redefining what it means to me to make films. Yeah.
Where can we find you?
Oh, Jesus. On Instagram, I guess, at _Logan-Haye, LOGANHAYE. That's H for hotel. People say I say that like a Jamaican, so they never know what I'm saying. I'm on Facebook as well as Akil Logan-Haye, AKIL LOGAN -HAYE. I believe those are the two places. Yeah, I haven't launched our website yet. I'm creating it.
Good.
I'm creating it.
Very good.
Yes. I think those are the two places.
Thank you so much for coming, Akil.
Chris, thank you. The pleasure was all mine. I can't believe we got this opportunity. Thank you.